It's trade deadline season as the rumors are picking up. We're starting to see some moves being made. We'll talk about who the Braves should be going after. I'll tell you what I would do if I were the GM, and we'll take your trade deadline questions all on a Friday episode of Lockedon Braves. So let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, and welcome back to Locked On Braves, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we are covering your favorite Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I am your host, Jake Mastroianni. You can follow me on Twitter at shortstopball and check out my bio there to see everywhere I am covering the game of baseball, including your Atlanta Braves in written form over at tomahawktake.com. Also, make sure you follow the podcast on Twitter at LockedOn_Braves. Send in any questions, comments, or feedback that you have for the podcast. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Hit that thumbs up button on this video. Hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever we post a new episode. And as always, thank you for making Locked On Braves your first listen of every day. We post episodes daily, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, and are free and available on all platforms. And today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. Today, we're strictly going to be talking about the trade deadline, which is coming up next Tuesday, August 2nd at 6 p.m. Eastern. So it's quickly approaching. We're starting to see a couple of moves being made. Talked about Andrew Benintendi going to the Yankees the other day. The Mets have made a couple of small moves. So things are starting to pick up. Rumors are swirling around. Should be a really fun weekend and a fun couple of days leading up to the trade deadline. It's always one of the more enjoyable days, weeks of the baseball season, constantly refreshing and updating Twitter. I get very little work done around this time of year. But it should be exciting and fun. And I think the Braves will be a big part of that as well. Maybe not any huge splashes, but I do think Alex Anthopoulos and company will make several moves. We'll talk about that. I'll tell you the moves that I think Alex should make, and we'll take your questions as well leading up to the trade deadline. But I want to start with just a little bit of trade news. I've mentioned the Mets on Thursday night. They traded for outfielder Tyler Naquin as well as left-handed pitcher Philip Dial from the Reds for Jose Acuna and Hector Rodriguez. A nice depth move for the Mets. This is kind of what I've been talking about for the Braves, that maybe you can't go out and make a splashy move, which I still think the Mets are going to do. This isn't the only thing they're going to do, but create some depth, get some pieces on your bench. Some guys like Naquin who are platoon guys that at least can do one thing really good, put them on their bench and use them in those spots, and they can be very effective. So, again, unfortunately, I like the move from the Mets, what they're doing. They got Vogelbach, last week, got Tyler Naquin now, so they got a couple of lefty specialists that can come in against right-handed pitchers and have good numbers against right-handed pitchers. They get a left-handed reliever as well. So a nice depth move for the Mets. I think at the very least we see the Braves make those types of moves, or at least I hope so. Seems like the Padres are emerging as front runners for Juan Soto. There were some rumblings for the Texas Rangers being interested as well, but get him out of the NL East. Hopefully that's at very least going to happen. We'll see if Juan Soto gets moved at this deadline. I'm still a little bit skeptical, but I do think AJ Preller, he is known to be a gunslinger. I would not be surprised the Padres do land him and get involved, and you get him for 3 postseason runs. You get him for the rest of this year and 2 more seasons. So would not be a bad idea. The price tag would have to be incredibly high to do that, especially with getting those years of controls. Although it's not going to be cheap, he's going to make a lot through arbitration as one of the best players in baseball. But I do think the Padres, at least their GM, is brave enough to do that. All right, I want to start jumping into some of your questions here. Be pretty quick with some of these, but I did want to just run through them real quickly. Jared Vickery says, what would it take to get Ketel Marte, or is it a no-go with the extension he signed? It's a no-go. I mean, it would take a lot to get him, and I do think that ship has sailed with the extension that he signed with the Diamondbacks. There's just no way they're going to move him right now after doing that extension. They view him as the corner piece of their rebuild when they're ready to contend again. They view him as that corner piece. Next question comes from sports_gloss. He said, what about Ian Anderson and Marcell Ozuna for Gallo and Loaizaga? The Yankees take on Ozuna's contract in exchange for the extra years of control of Ian Anderson. We get an upside in Gallo and a right-handed reliever. I think both pitchers can benefit from a change of scenery and maybe benefit from pitching in a new league. 2 months of a struggling Joey Gallo and 2+ years of a relief pitcher who isn't having a good year is not worth giving up a 24-year-old Ian Anderson, who I still believe will be a good pitcher. Look, he's struggled this year. There's no doubt about that, but he's still just 24 years old. Even if that means getting rid of the Ozuna contract, that's just not a deal I'd be willing to do. I'm not ready to give up on Ian Anderson. If you're going to trade him, it better be for a really good piece that you're getting in return, not for Joey Gallo, which we're going to talk more about in a second, and not a right-handed relief pitcher who probably wouldn't be the 6th or 7th best guy in your bullpen right now. So no, I would not do that deal, even if it meant getting rid of Ozuna's contract. Next question comes from Jason. Says, since Joey Gallo is the hot topic, what's a realistic package for him? We know money is tight and we don't have the prospect collateral to go big. Who are some realistic additions that AA could realistically pick up? So look, Joey Gallo is getting a lot of attention, especially among Braves circles and Braves fans on Twitter. I don't understand it. I really don't get it. People are so enamored with Joey Gallo, and I guess I understand that maybe you get him out of New York and you get some upside. This guy's hit under 200 the past 3 years, and I get it. Average isn't, the end-all be-all stat, but that's not good. I don't know what other way to put that. And for a team in the Braves who already have enough swing and miss in their lineup, do you really want to add a guy who strikes out 40% of the time or nearly 40% of the time? I don't understand all the love that Joey Gallo is getting, especially from Braves fans wanting to take him on. He's owed about $3.5 million the rest of the year. He is a platoon only guy. You're only going to start him against right-handers, which you're mostly going to face right-handers. But even that, it hasn't been great. I think there's better platoon options out there. I'd rather have a David Peralta from the left-handed side than Joey Gallo right now. And his defense, which in the past has been elite, has slipped some as well this year. So I just don't get it. I don't understand the fit for Joey Gallo. I don't think he is a fit for what this Atlanta Braves team needs right now. So no, I'm out on Joey Gallo. As far as the price for him, I would hardly give up anything for Joey Gallo. I would think the Yankees would be trying to, give him away for anything just to create a roster spot at this point. So he wouldn't be expensive in terms of prospects. He would be a little bit expensive with $3.5 million on the books the rest of the year. I just don't know what real value he serves on this Braves team. He doesn't really help you at all, I believe. And I could be completely wrong on that, but I don't get it. And Joey Gallo is getting a lot of attention amongst Braves fans on Twitter that I'm seeing, and I'm getting a lot of people asking me about Joey Gallo. I don't get it. I don't understand the love for him. Again, I think there's much better options out there that you could get for the same price, if not less. I think, again, I mentioned Peralta, Brandon Drury, Randall Grichuk from the right-handed side, or Jordan Luplow from the right-handed side. Those are all kind of platoon guys that I think are better options than Joey Gallo at the moment. So, and again, I think there's probably guys out there we're not even thinking of that AA is looking at right now. So, yeah, Joey Gallo is a big name, and I think a lot of people are enamored with that name, but I just don't see the fit for the Braves. It doesn't really make any sense at all to me. All right, next, going to take some more trade deadline questions, and I'm going to tell you what I would do if I were GM of the Atlanta Braves leading up to the trade deadline. As the sun comes out and small businesses are back in business, LinkedIn Jobs makes it easier to grow your team. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the people you want to interview faster and for free. Create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond to the world's largest professional network of over 810 million people. Then add your job in the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring so your network can help you find the right people to hire. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skill sets and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs number one in developing or in delivering quality hires and versus the leading competitor. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. And did you know every week, nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonmlb. That's linkedin.com/lockedonmlb to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Thanks again for making Locked On Braves your first listen every day. The MLB trade deadline is August 2nd, as we talked about earlier. And Locked On MLB has all the breakdowns. Locked On Braves will have rapid reactions to any moves that are made leading up to the deadline. So make sure you subscribe to Locked On MLB. We're going to have a special show on the deadline day. And obviously, any moves that happen, I'll have breaking Locked On reactions to that on the YouTube feed. So make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Braves on YouTube and Locked On MLB as well to get all the trade deadline coverage. A couple more trade deadline questions. Then I want to get into what I would do at the deadline. The next two actually come from Chris Shaffey. Says, can the Braves put Anderson in the bullpen with that? Also having Yates back in the bullpen, is it realistic for the Braves to get Ian Happ and also a starter to take Anderson's spot like Tyler Mahle? I think the cost of getting Happ and Tyler Mahle would be too much for the Braves. I think you'd have to give up a pretty significant prospect for each of those. So that might be a little too much for what Alex Anthopoulos is wanting to do. I think you get one or the other. I don't know if you can get both. Would love to get both, certainly. And I think the Braves could do it. It's just, what's the price? Can they outbid others? But I think the price may get a little too high to do both of those guys. More likely, I think they get Happ and then someone like Jose Quintana for the rotation is more of an innings eater, a fourth, fifth guy in the starting rotation to potentially replace Ian Anderson. I don't see Ian as a bullpen guy. To me, that's not a great option, a great spot for him. Again, I still view him as a good middle of rotation, number 3-4 type starter in the future. I do think the Braves trade for a starter, and I think Ian gets moved back down to AAA. He's scheduled to start this Saturday in Atlanta against the Diamondbacks for the Braves. That'll be a big start for him. Obviously, we need to start seeing signs of improvement. Either way, I think the Braves get a starter at the deadline. And I think Ian goes back to AAA to work on things. And then hopefully he's able to figure some things out, come back later in the year and be a big part of the rotation, or if an injury comes up, when he's needed. Look, it's there. We've seen it. I just think the league started to adjust to him. It's time for him to start making some adjustments as well. Again, I will say it. He is still just 24 years old. There's plenty of room for growth for Ian Anderson. I'm not sure I'd bank on Kirby Yates being that back of the bullpen guy just yet. He's looked really good on his rehab outings. Need to see several outings from him at the big league level yet. Not saying that he can't be that guy, but I wouldn't bank on it. I'd still go out and get a right-handed reliever just in case. There's not a ton of great arms out there anyway. So, I'd go out and get, Michael Givens or Andrew Chafin, somebody like that to fill in a bullpen role. I would not just strictly count on Kirby Yates coming in and being that dominant reliever that he was before the injury. And then the other question from Chris, do you feel like the Braves need to sign a starter to compete with the Mets getting Degrom back? Look, you're not going to acquire anybody that's going to be on the level of Degrom unless there's the pipe dream to get Shohei Ohtani. But that, to me, is not realistic, at least not for the Braves. So no, I still believe in Fried and Charlie Morton. I know Morton is starting to make me a little nervous right now, but I still think Fried and Morton in a postseason series, a postseason game, can go up against Scherzer and Degrom. I believe in Kyle Wright as a number 3 in your rotation, and I believe he's solid. So I'm fine with those 3 guys. We just saw what they did in the postseason past year. Not Kyle Wright, but Fried and Morton until the injury. We saw what Kyle Wright did in the World Series. So I'm comfortable with those 3 leading my postseason rotation. And then obviously Spencer Strider, kind of a wild card. I mean, he can go out there and dominate any lineup for 5 or 6 innings as he's shown. So I feel comfortable with the starting rotation, maybe more comfortable than others do. I still think they need to get somebody at the deadline, but I'm thinking more of a 4th, 5th starter, innings eater type of starter, not anybody at the top of the rotation. I don't think they're going to get Luis Castillo or Frankie Montas. Again, you're not going to get anybody that's going to compete at the level of Jacob Degrom. So, do they need to get a starter? Yes, but not necessarily in response to what the Mets have or Jacob Degrom coming back. It would be great to get Luis Castillo. He's probably really the only arm out there that I think just really bolsters the top of this rotation. But again, like I said, I still believe in the starters that the Braves have, and I think they are good enough to win a World Series. They were last year. So I still believe in this rotation. And again, there's nobody you can get that can compete with DeGrom. So you just have to rely on the guys you have and hope that some of them step up, honestly, in the second half and into the postseason. Appreciate all the questions as always. I really do. Thank you for sending those in. They're always great. So please continue to do that. Send them into @LockedOn_Braves on Twitter. But I wanted to put my GM hat on for a minute and talk about the moves that I would make at the trade deadline to improve this Braves team. For me, one big move I would make, I would trade anyone not named Jared Schuster or Vaughn Grissom, or obviously any of the recent draft picks, for Ian Happ. That's my number one target right now. I think he fills the biggest need that the Braves have at the moment. A switch hitter, play corner outfield, can play second base in a pinch if needed, gets on base. He's really cut down on his strikeout rate this year. I just think he makes a ton of sense for the Braves, has some power, a little bit of speed, so it gives you a little bit of everything. So I'd give up anyone not named Jared Schuster or Vaughn Grissom to get Ian Happ. I would love to get through this trade deadline without giving up, again, any of the recent draft picks: Kyle Muller, Freddie Tarnok, Spencer Schwellenbach, Embarios Tavares, or Smith Shawver. If you get through this trade deadline without getting any of those guys and you make this team better, I think that's a huge win for Alex Anthopoulos. But for Happ, again, outside of those two, Schuster and Grissom, I'd be willing to give up just about anyone. Next move I would make, I'd trade Alan Rangel or Braden Shoemake to the Los Angeles Angels for Noah Syndergaard and either some money, or either the Braves include Will Smith in that deal to offset some of the money, because Thor is still owed a good bit of money the rest of the way. I like Noah Syndergaard. I talked about him earlier in the week. I think he's a solid, 4 starter in your rotation, potential for a number 3 starter. I think there's, an opportunity for him to be more than that. I think you put him on a winning team like the Braves, and I think his numbers get even better. So I like Noah Syndergaard. I think that's a good fit for the Braves. And again, just the opportunity for him to come back and go against his old team in the Mets. I love the competitive nature of Noah Syndergaard, always have. So I think that'd be a great fit on the Braves and in their rotation. So that's the second move I would make. Third move, I'd give up, Trey Harris, Justin Dean, somebody of that level for David Peralta. I'd still go out and get another left-handed platoon type guy like David Peralta. Ian Happ is a switch hitter, but he hits better as a right-handed hitter, so he kind of fills that need that you lose with Adam Duvall going down. But as a switch hitter, obviously he can play every day, but he does feel that guy as a right-handed hitter who really crushes lefties. So you get somebody like David Peralta, a left-handed hitter who can crush righties. You have another bat off the bench there late in the game against right-handed relievers. So that's what I'd do. I'd give up a lower level, prospect for David Peralta. And then finally, I'd add a right-handed pitcher or a relief pitcher, whoever that is. I like Michael Fulmer from the Tigers. I think he kind of makes sense. I'd give up, Luke Waddell or a back-end lower level starter like Tanner Gordon, something like that. For Michael Fulmer, you could get Michael Gibbons from the Cubs, David Robertson, although I think he's probably going to cost too much from what you would really want to give up for him, just because he probably is the best relief pitcher on the market that we know of. Look, I'd go out to the Orioles, see if I could get Jorge Lopez or one of their young relievers. I just think that's going to cost too much, and I don't think the Orioles really have a desire to trade any of them right now. But overall, that's what I would do as the GM. I'd get the big bat in Ian Happ. I'd get a starter, like Thor or a Jose Quintana, somebody for that fourth, fifth spot in the rotation. I'd get another left-handed bat for the bench, to replace either Mike Ford or Guillermo Heredia. And then I'd get a right-handed reliever as well, just in case Kirby Yates, isn't that guy when he comes back. So that's what I would do as the GM. I'd make those four moves just to really create some depth. And, that's really what I hope we see overall at the trade deadline, is that Alex just makes a lot of small moves in order to create some depth. The core of this Braves team is there. They're good. They can compete. They can win a World Series. It's about creating the depth, the guys around them. So what if somebody gets injured in the last couple of months? Do you have somebody who can fill in that spot? So that's really what this trade deadline is about for me. It's creating depth. Yes, I would love to get a big piece. I'd love to get Ian Happ and, Tyler Mahle or Luis Castillo. Would certainly love for that to happen, but at the very least, I just want to see Alex create some depth. That's my goal for the Braves at this trade deadline. And I think those moves that I talked about will do that. All right, the Braves get back to action after the off day on Thursday, going up against the Arizona Diamondbacks this weekend. Braves looking to get back on track after dropping a series in Philly. We'll talk about that next. BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your betting needs. Find all your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews and news of every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sport wagering information. From live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts, they have you covered. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the action happening today. BetOnline, where the game starts. The Braves start a 3-game series with the Arizona Diamondbacks in Atlanta this weekend. Obviously, leading up to the trade deadline, the last 3 games before the trade deadline, you always wonder how that affects players, both players who, could be getting traded to a contender and players on the Braves who could be losing their spot on a contender. You always wonder how that affects their play going into the trade deadline, but that'll be the case this weekend. The Diamondbacks could be looking to trade some players. The Braves obviously looking to trade for some players, and I think those two actually have some matchups where they could make a move. Madison Bumgarner versus Kyle Wright on Friday night. Mad Bum got off to a really hot start in April. Since then, he's pitched more like a 4th or 5th starter, which is what he is at this point. So hopefully the Braves can get after him. Hopefully Kyle Wright has another solid outing and the Braves can get a win to start the weekend. On Saturday, it'll be Corbin Martin versus Ian Anderson. Talked about it a minute ago. Very important start for Ian Anderson. Have to see some improvement. Really need to see him just change some things up. I think it could be a very important spot for him. He could potentially be losing his spot in the rotation after Saturday. For Corbin Martin, they just moved him into the rotation. The longest outing that he's gone all year is 4 innings. He's done that 3 times. He's walked 9 batters in his last 2 innings or last 2 outings. That's a total of 8 innings, and he doesn't strike out a lot either. So, again, it's a favorable matchup for Ian Anderson, a game that the Braves probably should win, going up against Corbin Martin, who just doesn't have a lot of experience going deep into games yet, still struggling with command as a young pitcher. Seems like a favorable matchup for Ian Anderson and the Braves. And then on Sunday, got a really good pitching matchup to end the month of July. Merrill Kelly versus Max Fried. Kelly pitched 8 shutout innings his last time out, has a 1.57 ERA in July, going at least 6 innings in each outing, allowing 2 earned or less. So that's going to be a tough one for the Braves. It's a series finale. It's a day game going up against a really good pitcher. Going to be a tough game, even though the Braves have their ace on the mound in Max Fried. But hopefully they get the first 2 games of this series. Hopefully they get a sweep. It is going to be an important series for the Braves because it's a series leading up before the trade deadline. And also the first couple of weeks of August are really tough for the Braves. So important to end the month of July on a high note here, getting at least a series win against the Diamondbacks. But again, hopefully getting a sweep and really getting a hot stretch going into the month of August. That will do it for this episode. Thanks for making Lockedon Braves your first listen every day. We'll be back on Monday, wrapping up the weekend and giving more trade deadline coverage. Now go and make your second listen, the Lockedon MLB podcast, where MLB expert Paul Francis Sullivan brings humor, passion, and a unique perspective on every team and the biggest stories from around the league. Follow the #1 daily league-wide podcast, Locked On MLB, on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast. Again, thanks for listening. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at @LockedOn_Braves. You can follow me at ShortstopBall. Also, make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to the Locked On Braves podcast wherever you get your podcast, and we will talk to you next time.